chosen one. Why are you awake right now when you should be sleeping? Why did your restless spirit guide you to this exact moment, this precise video, at this ungodly hour? And why does something deep in your chest feel like it's about to break open? Tonight, someone couldn't sleep. That someone was you. And that's not a coincidence. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What you're experiencing right now isn't insomnia. It's not anxiety. It's not your mind racing with tomorrow's worries. What's happening to you in this sacred moment is a divine interruption. Heaven itself has shaken you awake because God has something to say, and He refuses to wait until morning. This is not a video. It's a spiritual knock on your door at midnight, the kind that changes everything. You've been carrying something heavy, haven't you? That weight in your chest, that quiet desperation you can't name, that feeling like you're running out of time while everyone else seems to have all the time in the world. Tonight, God sees every tear you've hidden, every prayer you've whispered into your pillow, every moment you've wondered if He's forgotten your name. He hasn't. Isaiah 43:19 whispers to your spirit right now, "See, I am doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it?" But here's what will shock you. That new thing isn't coming tomorrow. It's not coming next week. It's happening tonight, while the world sleeps and you're wide awake, because God needed you alert for what He's about to download into your life. If something in your spirit is already stirring, if your hands are trembling or your heart is racing, comment 777 now. This is not about engagement. It's your first prophetic act of agreement with heaven. It's your spiritual signature on a divine contract that's being written in real time. There's something heaven wants to release in your life, something that's been sealed, waiting for this exact moment when your desperation meets God's perfect timing. But it can only happen tonight, not tomorrow when doubt creeps back in, not next week when life gets loud again. Tonight, while your soul is raw and your defenses are down, and your heart is finally ready to receive what it's been crying out for. Thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let that gratitude move through you. Stay with me, chosen one. Because by the end of this message, you won't just hear a truth. You'll walk into it. Tonight, everything changes. God says it must happen tonight. Why have you been waiting so long for your breakthrough? Why does it feel like God's promises have an expiration date that keeps getting pushed back? And why does tonight feel different from every other night you've cried yourself to sleep, wondering if He's forgotten your address? Listen closely, chosen one. There's a woman I need you to meet. Her name was Margaret, 73 years old, living in a cramped apartment in Queens. For 17 years, 17 long, brutal years, she prayed the same prayer every single night. God, please let me see my grandson again. Please heal this broken family. Please don't let me die with this pain in my heart. 17 years of silence. 17 years of watching other families reunite while hers stayed shattered. 17 years of wondering if her prayers were bouncing off the ceiling, falling to the floor like dead leaves. But here's what Margaret didn't know. Here's what you don't know. Every single one of those prayers was being collected in heaven's treasury. Every tear was being stored in golden bowls before God's throne. Every sleepless night was preparing her for one moment that would change everything. Because you see, God doesn't work on your timeline. He works on His. And His timing isn't just perfect. It's strategic. It's calculated. It's designed to blow your mind when you least expect it and most need it. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Tonight, I need you to understand something that will shake the foundation of how you view your delays. Margaret's 17-year wait wasn't punishment. It was preparation. It wasn't God being slow. It was God being surgical. Because on the 14th of February 2019, at 11:47 p.m., Margaret's phone rang. The voice on the other end said, "Grandma, it's Michael. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Can you ever forgive me?" 17 years of prayers answered in 17 seconds. But here's the part that will give you chills. That very same night, Margaret's grandson had been standing on a bridge in California, ready to end his life. Something supernatural happened at 11:47 p.m. He heard a voice, felt a presence, and instead of jumping, he called his grandmother. One prayer, one moment, one divine interruption that saved 2 lives and restored an entire family. That's not coincidence, dear one. That's God showing you what happens when His timing collides with human desperation. That's what happens when heaven decides it's time to move. Now, let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. What if every delay in your life has been God positioning you for your Esther moment? You know Esther's story, an orphan girl who became a queen, not for her own glory, but to save an entire nation. But here's what most people miss about Esther 4:14. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Mordecai didn't say for such a time as next year, or for such a time as when you feel ready. He said for such a time as this moment, this night, this divine appointment that's been scheduled in heaven's calendar since before you took your first breath. What if the delays weren't denials but divine preparations? What if this tonight is your Esther moment? What if God has been positioning you, preparing you, refining you through every trial, every setback, every tear, not to break you, but to break you open for something so magnificent it required years of preparation? Margaret thought she was waiting for God, but God was waiting for the perfect moment when one phone call would save 2 lives. Esther thought she was just surviving in the palace, but God was positioning her to save a nation. You think you're just watching a video at midnight, but what if God orchestrated this moment because your breakthrough requires you to be awake, alert, and spiritually hungry at exactly this hour? Comment your first name below. It's not just a comment, it's an act of faith. Let the angels see it written. Let heaven know you're ready to step into your divine timing. Because here's what's about to happen, chosen one. Just like Margaret's phone rang at the exact moment it needed to, just like Esther was positioned in the palace for such a time as this, you're about to discover that every second of your waiting has been calculated by a God who knows exactly when to move on your behalf. The question isn't whether your breakthrough is coming. The question is, are you ready to recognize it when it arrives? Are you prepared to answer the call when heaven dials your number? Are you willing to step into your royal position when God says, "This is it. This is your moment. This is why I've been preparing you"? Tonight isn't just another night, dear one. Tonight is the night heaven has been waiting for. Tonight is when your story changes. Tonight is when 17 years of prayers get answered in 17 seconds. But only if you're brave enough to believe that your waiting is over and your walking begins now. Chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to your soul. Why have you been fighting longer than everyone else? Why does it feel like you're swimming upstream while others float effortlessly downstream? Why does your breakthrough feel like it's always just out of reach, like you're grasping at smoke? I need you to hear this truth, even if it hurts. You're tired. Bone deep, soul-weary tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep can fix, but the kind that comes from carrying hope so long it's started to feel heavy. You've been praying the same prayers for months, maybe years, and the silence from heaven has become so loud it's deafening. You wake up every morning wondering if today will be different. You check your phone hoping for that call, that email, that sign that God finally heard you. But the day ends the same way it began, with you whispering into the darkness, "God, are you still there?" Here's what's been eating at you. Why has the door stayed closed when you've knocked until your knuckles bled? Why have others waltzed through opportunities that you've been begging for? Why does it feel like you're speaking a language heaven doesn't understand? Let me tell you what the enemy has been whispering in your ear during those 3 a.m. moments when sleep won't come. He's been telling you that you missed your chance, that you're too old, too damaged, too far behind. He's been painting pictures in your mind of a God who plays favorites, and you're not one of them. But tonight, I'm here to shatter that lie with the truth that's going to change everything. You're not behind, chosen one. You're hidden. Like David in the cave of Adullam, running from Saul, wondering if God's promise of kingship was just a cruel dream. David didn't know that every day in that cave was shaping the heart of Israel's greatest king. Every tear, every moment of feeling forgotten, every night of wondering if Samuel had anointed the wrong boy. It was all preparation for a throne he couldn't yet see. Right now, you feel like David in that cave, overlooked, abandoned, questioning if what God whispered to your heart was real or just wishful thinking. But what if I told you that cave isn't your prison? It's your preparation chamber. Romans 8:28 isn't just a pretty verse to put on coffee mugs. It's a divine promise that God has been weaving every moment of your waiting, every unanswered prayer, every closed door into a tapestry of purpose you can't comprehend yet. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. But here's where it gets personal. Why has it always been harder for you? Why do you carry burdens others seem immune to? Why does your heart break for people who barely notice you exist? Because God has been marking you, chosen one. Every trial has been a stamp of divine selection. Every hardship has been heaven's way of saying, this one can handle what's coming. Jeremiah 29:11 declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future." But here's what most people miss. That verse was written to people in exile, people who felt forgotten, people who thought God had given up on them. It wasn't written to the comfortable. It was written to the broken. You've been asking why your prayers echo without answers. Let me flip that question. What if your prayers haven't been unanswered? What if they've been perfectly timed for tonight? What if God has been storing every tear, collecting every whispered plea, waiting for this exact moment when your desperation reaches the same frequency as His divine intervention? The door hasn't stayed closed because God doesn't love you. It stayed closed because what's behind it is so massive, so life-altering, that you needed to be strong enough to walk through it without being crushed by the weight of your own breakthrough. Tonight marks the end of something. The end of feeling like God's forgotten child. The end of watching others receive what you've been praying for. The end of questioning if you heard His voice correctly all those years ago. You were never being punished, chosen one. You were being positioned. Every setback was a setup. Every delay was divine timing. Every moment you felt invisible, God was making you invaluable. Tonight, that positioning ends. The elevation begins. But I need something from you right now. I need you to do something that might feel impossible after all you've been through. Right where you are, whether you're in your living room, your car, or lying in bed at 2 a.m., I need you to say these words out loud. God, I'm still here, and I still believe. If you can say that through tears, heaven is already moving. If you can declare that with a broken heart, angels are already being dispatched. Because the God who counts your tears in bottles is about to turn your weeping into worship, your mourning into dancing. The war for your breakthrough has been raging, but tonight the victory banner gets planted. Tonight, heaven declares, enough is enough. Tonight, your waiting transforms into walking, your hoping into having, your praying into praising. Can you feel it shifting? Can you sense something breaking open in the spiritual realm? Because what I'm about to tell you next will explain why everything had to happen exactly the way it did, and why tonight changes absolutely everything. You know what's been eating at you for decades? That gnawing feeling that you don't quite belong anywhere. That sense that while everyone else got the manual for life, you've been fumbling around in the dark, trying to figure out why nothing feels like home, why relationships feel surface deep, why success feels hollow, why even in a room full of people, you feel like you're watching life through a window instead of living it. Let me tell you something that's going to shatter every lie you've believed about yourself. You weren't born to fit in, you were born to stand out. And that restlessness you've carried your entire life isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It's heaven's thumbprint pressed into your soul before you took your first breath. 1 Peter 2-9 declares with thunderous authority, "You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. Not you might be, or you could become. You are. Right now, tonight, sitting exactly where you are, carrying exactly what you're carrying. But here's what the church never taught you about being chosen. It's not a blessing that makes life easier. It's a calling that makes life different. Ask Harriet Tubman, who couldn't sleep peacefully knowing others were still in chains. Ask Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison because he couldn't accept injustice. Ask Martin Luther King Jr., who faced death threats daily because he couldn't stay silent. The world saw struggle, but God saw a seed. You carry spiritual fingerprints that don't match this world's patterns. That's why you've always felt like a square peg trying to fit into round holes. That's why normal jobs drain your soul. That's why small talk feels like torture. That's why you can sense things others miss, feel things others ignore, see through facades that fool everyone else. And that's exactly why the enemy's attacks against you have been so specific, so relentless, so personal. He doesn't waste ammunition on ordinary people. He saves his heaviest artillery for those carrying the most dangerous light. Every betrayal you've endured, every door that slammed in your face, every dream that was crushed, those weren't random acts of cruelty. Those were targeted strikes against a soul that threatens the kingdom of darkness. Think about this. Why has your pain been so deep? Why have your struggles been so intense? Why does it feel like you've been through hell and back more times than you can count? Because ordinary people don't get extraordinary preparation. God doesn't put his most precious weapons through basic training. He forges them in fire. You remember Tyler Perry, don't you? Homeless, sleeping in his car, rejected by every studio in Hollywood. The world saw failure. God saw preparation. Today, he owns one of the largest film studios in America. Not because he was lucky, because he was chosen. Because every rejection was redirecting him toward his divine assignment. But here's the part that's going to blow your mind. All those years you spent thinking something was wrong with you, those were the years God was marking you as his own. Every time you felt different, every time you felt misunderstood, every time you felt like you were living on the outside looking in, that wasn't rejection, that was selection. You've been carrying a divine frequency your whole life, and tonight, heaven is turning up the volume. That stirring in your chest right now isn't anxiety, it's activation. That restlessness in your spirit isn't discontent, it's anticipation. Your soul recognizes what your mind is just beginning to understand. You are not an accident, you are not a mistake, you are not too late, too old, too broken, or too far gone. You are God's chosen vessel, hand-picked before the foundation of the world, trained through trials that would have destroyed lesser souls, and positioned for this exact moment when the world needs what only you can carry. The enemy has been trying to convince you that your sensitivity is weakness, that your depth is dysfunction, that your intensity is too much. But what if I told you that your sensitivity is actually spiritual radar? Your depth is divine connection. Your intensity is holy fire. You've felt like a misfit your whole life because you were never made to fit in. You were chosen to stand out. You were designed to disrupt. You were created to carry light into dark places that comfortable people won't go. Tonight, God is removing the veil from your eyes. He's showing you what He's always seen. Not your failures, but your calling. Not your mistakes, but your mission. Not your pain, but your power. The dreams you buried because people said they were too big, God is resurrecting them tonight. The gifts you hid because the world said they were too strange, God is activating them tonight. The voice you silenced because others said it was too loud, God is amplifying it tonight. This is your moment of divine recognition. This is your burning bush experience. This is when Moses stopped seeing himself as a stuttering shepherd and started seeing himself as the deliverer of nations. Say it with boldness. I am chosen. I am not forgotten. I am walking in God's will tonight. Say it until you feel it. Say it until you believe it. Say it until the very atmosphere around you shifts in response to the authority you carry. Because, chosen one, your waiting season is over. Your hiding season is finished. Tonight, you step into the light you were born to carry. And the world will never be the same. Can you feel heaven holding its breath, waiting to see what you'll do with this revelation? Chosen one, I need you to stop everything you're doing right now and listen to what I'm about to tell you. Because what's happening in your life isn't random. It's not a coincidence that you've been feeling this restlessness, this stirring in your spirit, this sense that something monumental is about to shift. Heaven has been preparing you for this exact moment, and tonight, not tomorrow, not next week, tonight is when everything changes. You see, there's something most people don't understand about God's timing. They think He operates on human schedules, that His promises unfold slowly over months and years. But that's not how breakthroughs work in the kingdom. Isaiah 60:22 declares it plainly. When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. And beloved, the time is right. Right now, tonight. But here's what's going to shock you, and I need you to really hear this. If you don't respond to what God is saying tonight, if you let this moment pass by thinking you'll deal with it later, you might miss the very window of opportunity that could transform your entire existence. God's invitations don't stay open indefinitely. Ask the 5 foolish virgins who missed the wedding feast because they weren't ready when the bridegroom arrived. Think about Joshua and the Israelites at Jericho. For 6 days, they marched around those massive walls that seemed impossible to penetrate. People probably mocked them. The strategy made no human sense. But on the 7th day, when they completed that final march and lifted their voices in unified obedience, those walls didn't just crack, they collapsed completely. It wasn't strategy. It was obedience to divine timing. Right now, you're standing at your own Jericho moment. Those walls in your life, the financial barriers, the health limitations, the broken relationships, the dreams that have been delayed for decades, they're not as solid as they appear. God has been preparing their collapse, but it requires your obedience tonight. Your willingness to step forward when every logical voice tells you to wait. Let me ask you something that might disturb you. How many times have you felt God stirring your heart about something, only to talk yourself out of it? How many divine nudges have you ignored because the timing didn't seem perfect? How many opportunities have you watched slip away because you were waiting for a more convenient season? Tonight, God is saying, enough. Enough waiting. Enough analyzing. Enough letting fear masquerade as wisdom. Heaven has scheduled a meeting with you. The door is open, but it won't stay open forever. And here's what most people never realize. When God says tonight, He means it with the authority of someone who controls time itself. When he declares that something must happen now, it's because he's already aligned every cosmic element necessary for your breakthrough. But you have to understand something crucial about how God operates. He doesn't just change your circumstances, he transforms you in the process. When he moves tonight, you won't just receive what you've been praying for. You'll become someone capable of stewarding it. The person who goes to sleep tonight won't be the same person who wakes up tomorrow morning. Look at Peter when Jesus called him to walk on water. The invitation came in the middle of a storm, in the darkest hour of night, when everything in Peter's experience screamed, "Stay in the boat." But something in his spirit recognized the voice of divine opportunity, and the moment he stepped out, not when the storm calmed, not when conditions improved, but right in the middle of the chaos, the impossible became his reality. This is your step out of the boat moment. This is your Red Sea parting. This is your burning bush encounter. And just like Moses had to turn aside to see what God was doing, you have to turn aside from your normal patterns, your comfortable doubt, your familiar delays, and say yes to what heaven is orchestrating right now. I'm going to tell you something that might sound impossible, but I need you to receive it. By faith, declare your next 7 days a sacred countdown. Within 7 days, not 7 months, not 7 years, within 7 days, God will confirm this word in a way you cannot ignore. The breakthrough you've been crying out for, the miracle you've been believing for, the transformation you've been desperately needing, it's going to manifest with such undeniable clarity that you'll never question God's timing again. But here's the requirement. You must seal this moment with a prophetic act. Write today's date in the comments right now, not later when you have time to think about it. Right now. That date becomes your covenant with God, your spiritual signature on a divine contract. It's your declaration that you're no longer content to be a spectator in your own destiny. 7 days from now, when you look back at this moment, you're going to testify to God's faithfulness. You're going to have evidence so overwhelming that every doubt you've carried will seem foolish, but it starts with your obedience tonight. Your willingness to step into what God is saying before you can see the full picture. The clock is ticking, chosen one, not because God is impatient, but because he's been patient long enough. Your season of preparation is complete, your time of waiting is over. Tonight, it must happen because God has decreed it, and his word never returns void. The question isn't whether God will move, the question is whether you'll move with him. Stop for a moment. Can you feel it? That electrical current running through your veins, that trembling in your hands as you hold your phone. That's not nervousness, chosen one. That's power. Divine authority awakening in your bloodstream after decades of dormancy. For too long, you've been living like a beggar at the gates of your own palace. You've been asking permission to enter rooms that already belong to you. You've been apologizing for gifts that God himself placed in your hands. But tonight, the masquerade ends. The enemy has fed you a lie so poisonous, so calculated, that it's kept entire generations of God's people in spiritual poverty. He whispered to you, "You're not ready, you're not worthy. You need more time, more training, more proof." But here's the shocking truth that will shatter everything you thought you knew about yourself. God doesn't anoint the qualified. He qualifies the anointed. And you, sitting there in the dark, heart pounding, spirit stirring, you've been anointed since before your first breath. Luke 10:19 cuts through every excuse, every doubt, every lie you've believed about yourself. I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. Not I will give you, not you might receive someday. I have given. Past tense, done deal, sealed contract. The question isn't whether you have authority. The question is why you've been pretending you don't. You've been waiting for a burning bush, but God speaks through burning hearts. You've been waiting for angels to appear, but God sends His Spirit through willing vessels. You've been waiting for permission from people who don't even understand their own calling, let alone yours. But tonight, the waiting stops. Right now, I need you to do something that will feel uncomfortable, maybe even scary. I need you to speak life over your own situation. Not whisper, not think. Speak. Because faith comes by hearing, and you need to hear your own voice declare what heaven has already decreed. Say this out loud, and I mean out loud. I am no longer waiting. I am walking. Did you feel that shift? That's not just words. That's a declaration of war against every force that's tried to keep you small. Say it again, louder this time. I am not just chosen. I am charged. Charged like a battery. Charged like a soldier, given orders. Charged with divine electricity that makes demons tremble and mountains move. You're not just picked for the team, you're the captain. One more. This one will change everything. I don't beg for blessings. I embody them. There it is. The sound of chains breaking. The sound of prison doors swinging open. The sound of your true identity finally finding its voice. For 60, 70, 80 years, some of you have been convinced that your best days are behind you. The world told you to retire, to slow down, to make room for the younger generation. But God doesn't operate on earthly timelines. Moses was 80 when he split the Red Sea. Abraham was 99 when he received the promise of Isaac. Anna was 84 when she prophesied over the infant Jesus. Your age isn't disqualification, it's credentials. Every wrinkle is wisdom. Every gray hair is a crown of glory. Every year you've survived is proof that God has kept you here for such a time as this. You are not the same person who clicked this video 20 minutes ago. Something has shifted in the spiritual realm. Heaven has rebranded you tonight. The old labels, too old, too broken, too late, they've been ripped off and thrown in the fire. New tags have been attached. Dangerous to darkness, threat to the enemy's plans, weapon in God's hands. This isn't motivation. This isn't positive thinking. This is prophetic activation. Right now, as I speak these words, assignments are being downloaded into your spirit. Dreams you buried are being resurrected. Doors you stopped knocking on are beginning to crack open. The phone call you've been afraid to make is about to become the phone call that changes everything. But here's where most people fail. They feel the fire, they sense the shift, and then they do nothing. They go back to bed, back to routine, back to the comfortable cage of someday and maybe, and if only. Not you. Not tonight. Do something you were afraid to do. Write the email to the person who hurt you. Not to apologize, but to forgive. Make the call about the business idea that's been burning in your chest for 5 years. Sow the seed into that ministry that's been on your heart. Obey the whisper that's telling you to move, to speak, to act. The window is open, but it won't stay open forever. Divine timing is precise, and this moment, this exact moment, is pregnant with possibility. Your breakthrough isn't coming, it's here. Your season isn't approaching, you're in it. The authority isn't being prepared for you, it's been placed in you. What are you going to do with it? What happens when the anointing attracts the fire? You thought being chosen would mean comfort. You thought God's favor would make life easier, smoother, softer. But the truth is, being chosen often sets you on fire first. And tonight, dear one, I need you to understand why. You've been walking through hell, haven't you? The last year, the last 5 years, maybe even the last decade, has felt like one trial after another. You've lost friends who couldn't understand your journey. You've buried dreams that felt too sacred to let go. You've watched doors slam shut just when breakthrough seemed within reach. And in those dark 3 a.m. moments, when sleep won't come and peace feels like a foreign language, you've asked God the question that burns deeper than any fire. Why did you pick me if it hurts so much? Tonight, God is answering that question. Isaiah 43:2 speaks directly to your wounded soul. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. Not if you walk through fire. When? Because fire isn't the exception for the chosen, it's the requirement. Listen carefully. That job you lost that made no sense. That relationship that crumbled when you thought it was God-ordained. That financial devastation that left you questioning everything you believed about God's provision. That wasn't God abandoning you. That was God refining you. You see, the enemy made a critical miscalculation. He thought if he turned up the heat high enough, you'd break. He thought if he stripped away enough of what you loved, you'd give up. He thought if he isolated you from enough people, you'd lose your faith. But what Satan couldn't see, what he'll never understand, is that God only puts his most precious gold in the hottest furnace. The fire didn't come to kill you. It came to reveal what the enemy couldn't see. You're fireproof. Every attack that was meant to destroy you has actually been burning away everything that wasn't authentically you. The people-pleasing, gone. The need for man's approval, incinerated. The fear of being misunderstood, reduced to ash. What's left standing in the flames isn't a broken victim, it's a refined warrior. You want to know why God chose you for this fire? Because when he looked across all of creation, when he scanned every heart and every soul, you were the only one strong enough to carry what he's about to give you. The blessing that's coming requires a vessel that's been tested by fire. The authority he's about to release demands someone who's proven they'll serve him, even when serving costs everything. Think about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They didn't just survive the furnace, they walked around in it unharmed while the Son of God joined them in the flames. The fire that was meant to consume them became the stage for their greatest miracle. That same divine protection, that same supernatural intervention is operating in your life right now. But here's what will shock you. The fire isn't over yet. God isn't done refining you because he isn't done promoting you. Every degree of heat you've endured has been preparing you for a dimension of glory that requires someone who's been tested in ways others can't comprehend. You've been crying out, God, when will this end? And he's been whispering back, when you're ready for what I have next. That restless feeling in your spirit, that sense that something massive is about to shift, that's not wishful thinking, that's prophetic awareness. You're sensing the completion of your refining process. The fire that has been your greatest trial is about to become your greatest testimony. Look at your hands right now. Those aren't the hands of someone who's been defeated. Those are the hands of someone who's been through the fire and came out holding the very thing the enemy tried to steal. Your faith isn't weaker, it's weaponized. Your heart isn't harder, it's purified. Your spirit isn't broken, it's unbreakable. God is saying to you tonight, because you were the only one strong enough to carry it. The anointing you're about to walk in required someone who's been proven faithful in the fire. The ministry that's about to open required someone who's been tested in isolation. The financial breakthrough that's coming needed someone who learned to trust God when the bank account said zero. The relationships that are about to bloom required someone who learned to love God more than people's opinions. Every sleepless night prepared you for the authority you're about to carry. Every tear shed in secret watered the ground for the harvest that's about to come. Every moment you felt forgotten was actually God hiding you until the perfect time to reveal what he's been building in the flames. The fire didn't diminish you, it concentrated you. You're not less than you were before the trials began. You're distilled, you're refined, you're pure gold. Drop A in the comments if you know you've been walking through fire and you're still here. That's not just a comment, that's your praise report. That's your declaration that hell couldn't hold you and fire couldn't consume you. But something's about to happen that will make every flame worth it. Something's about to shift that will explain every trial. God says it must happen tonight, and the fire you've been walking through has been preparing you for exactly this moment. The question is, are you ready to step out of the furnace and into your destiny? But tonight, something shifts, because what you thought was a blessing is about to become a burden. What you believed was favor is about to become responsibility. And what you assumed was personal breakthrough is about to become public assignment. You see, chosen one, there's something they never tell you about being selected by heaven. It's not just about what God does for you. It's about what God does through you. And tonight, He's not just calling you blessed, He's calling you responsible. Moses didn't apply to part the Red Sea. David never auditioned to fight Goliath. Esther didn't volunteer to risk her life before the king. You don't choose divine assignments, beloved. They find you. They hunt you down in your moments of deepest pain and greatest weakness, because that's when you're finally desperate enough to say yes to the impossible. Right now, at this very moment, you're sitting in a spiritual courtroom, and God's verdict isn't condemnation, it's purpose, it's assignment. It's the terrifying, beautiful reality that your breakthrough was never just about you breaking through. It was about you becoming the breakthrough for someone else. You keep saying, God, I'm not qualified. But heaven already stamped your name on the scroll before you took your first breath. What you see as pain, God sees as proof. What you call disqualification, He calls preparation. Every tear you've shed, every battle you've fought, every moment you wanted to quit but didn't, that wasn't just character building. That was curriculum. Jeremiah 1-5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." Do you understand what that means? Your calling isn't something that happened to you. It's something that is you. It's woven into your DNA, carved into your destiny, and tonight, it's being activated. You weren't born to be comfortable, chosen one. You were born to be commissioned. You weren't created to fit in. You were created to stand out, to stand up, to stand in the gap for those who can't stand for themselves. But here's what will terrify you. Here's what will make your hands shake and your heart race and your mind scream, "Not me, Lord." Your assignment isn't just personal victory. Your assignment is generational breakthrough. You weren't just called to survive your fire. You were called to lead others through theirs. That depression you conquered, there's someone drowning in that same darkness right now, and they need to see your scars turned into stars. That financial struggle you overcame, there's a family tonight choosing between medicine and groceries, and they need to witness your testimony of provision. That broken relationship you healed from, there's a marriage hanging by a thread, and they need to see that love can rise from ashes. Your pain wasn't punishment, beloved. It was preparation for priesthood. Your struggles weren't setbacks. They were seminary. Every valley you walked through was training ground for the mountains you're about to move for someone else. But I need to warn you about something. This assignment comes with a cost. When you step into your calling, hell will take notice. When you start walking in the authority God has given you, the enemy will deploy every weapon in his arsenal to stop you. Because he knows something you're just beginning to understand. One person walking in their divine assignment can shift the atmosphere of an entire generation. Yet here's the mystery that will blow your mind. The very struggles that the enemy used to try to destroy you are now the weapons God will use through you to destroy the enemy's plans in other people's lives. Your mess becomes your message. Your test becomes your testimony. Your wounds become your weapons. This is why you couldn't sleep tonight. This is why your spirit was restless. This is why God interrupted your evening with this divine download. Because tomorrow, someone is going to need what you carry. Next week, someone is going to need your story. This month, this year, this decade, There are people waiting for you to step into your assignment so they can step into their freedom. You think you're watching this video by accident. You think it's coincidence that your heart is pounding and your spirit is stirring and something deep inside you is saying, "This is it. This is my moment." No, chosen one, this is your commissioning. This is your spiritual graduation. This is the moment when God stops preparing you and starts deploying you. But you have to choose. You have to decide. Will you shrink back into the shadows of safety, or will you step forward into the spotlight of service? Will you hide your light under a bushel of fear, or will you let it shine for all the world to see? Say this aloud right now, and I mean it. Don't just think it. Say it. I will carry the fire and not be consumed. Feel those words in your throat, in your chest, in your very bones. Then comment below, "Send me, Lord." Because tonight, God isn't just calling you chosen, He's calling you commissioned, and the world is waiting for you to answer. You know what breaks my heart? It's not the people who walk away from God when life gets hard. It's the ones who stay and hear nothing. The ones who keep praying into what feels like an empty sky. The ones who whisper, "God, are you there?" and get back nothing but the sound of their own desperate breathing. Maybe that's you tonight. Maybe you've been in that suffocating silence for months, years even. Your friends tell you to just have faith. But how do you have faith when it feels like God moved to another galaxy and forgot to leave a forwarding address? Listen to me, chosen one. I need you to understand something that's going to shake you to your core. That silence you've been drowning in, it's not what you think it is. You thought you were forgotten, but you were being documented. Every tear was recorded, every whisper counted. Every night you stayed on your knees when you wanted to walk away. Heaven marked it down. While you felt abandoned, angels were taking notes. David knew this agony. In Psalm 13 he cried out, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me?" This wasn't a man losing faith. This was a man whose faith was being forged in fire. The same fire you've been walking through. But here's what David discovered, and what you're about to discover tonight. God's silence is not abandonment, it's rehearsal space. The angels are moving the stage behind the curtain. Heaven is preparing something so massive for your life that God needed to clear the noise, shut down the distractions, and let you marinate in pure, raw trust. You've heard nothing, felt nothing, and yet, deep inside, you still haven't walked away. That is faith. Not the faith they teach in Sunday school. The kind of faith that makes hell nervous and heaven applaud. Think about it. When your prayers bounced back like returned mail, when your Bible felt like reading a phone book, when worship songs made you want to scream, you stayed. When others left the faith because it got too hard, you stayed. When you couldn't even feel God breathing on you anymore, you stayed. Do you know what that makes you? Dangerous. Absolutely dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Because the enemy can handle people who praise when they feel good. He can handle people who believe when they see miracles. But he cannot handle someone who worships in the dark. Someone who says, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him," when they can't even hear his voice anymore. Your silence has been your seminary. Your desert has been your doctorate program. While others were getting high off emotional experiences, you were learning to love God for who He is, not what He gives you. That's graduate-level Christianity, and most people never make it that far. But you did. You're still here, still listening to this message at whatever ungodly hour brought you here, still believing there's something more, still refusing to let go of a God who seems to have let go of you. Here's what I know about you, chosen one. In that silence, you discovered something terrifying and beautiful. You love God even when He doesn't make sense, even when He doesn't show up the way you expected, even when your heart feels like it's beating inside a vacuum. That's not normal love. That's covenant love. That's the kind of love that moves mountains and parts seas. The silence wasn't punishment, it was preparation. God needed to know, and you needed to know, that your faith wasn't dependent on feelings, circumstances, or even answered prayers. He needed a warrior who would stand when standing made no sense. He needed someone who would trust his character when they couldn't trace his hand. That's why tonight matters. That's why you couldn't sleep. That's why your spirit is vibrating with something you can't name. The silence is breaking. The rehearsal is over. The curtain is about to rise on the most incredible chapter of your life, and you've been chosen for the leading role. Every tear you cried in that silence, they were seeds. Every prayer that felt like it hit the ceiling, they were building materials. Every moment you wanted to quit but didn't, those were your credentials. God wasn't testing your patience, He was developing your authority. He wasn't checking your endurance, He was building your empire. And now, tonight, it's time for the grand reveal. Write in the comments, I stayed. If you're still standing after silence, heaven calls that worship. If you're still believing after the darkness, God calls you ready. If you're still here after everything tried to drive you away, you're about to understand why you had to go through all of this. Because, chosen one, what's coming next required someone who could handle the weight of answered prayer just as powerfully as they handled the weight of silence. Chosen one, I need you to look at your life right now. Not the sanitized version you show on social media. Not the I'm fine mask you wear at church. Look at the real mess. The unpaid bills scattered across your kitchen table. The empty side of the bed that used to hold your dreams. The doctor's report you've been too afraid to open. The adult children who won't return your calls. The retirement account that feels more like a cruel joke than a safety net. Look at it all. Because I'm about to tell you something that will shatter everything you think you know about God's timing. God is not waiting for your mess to clean itself up before He moves. He's not standing at a distance, tapping His foot, waiting for you to get your act together. Right now, in this very moment, while you're drowning in chaos, while you're questioning if you've got enough years left to see things turn around, while you're wondering if this is just how your story ends, God is performing miracles inside the mess. Like a rose growing through concrete, His power doesn't need perfect conditions. It needs desperation. It needs impossibility. It needs you exactly where you are tonight, broken and raw, and wondering if tomorrow is worth waking up for. Romans 8:28 isn't just a pretty verse to embroider on a pillow. All things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. All things. Not some things, not the good things, all things. That divorce that nearly killed you, working for your good. That financial collapse that stole your golden years, working for your good. That diagnosis that changed everything, working for your good. But here's what's going to blow your mind. The miracle isn't coming after the mess ends. The miracle is happening right now, right in the middle of the storm that's trying to drown you. You think you're falling apart. God says you're being restructured. You think you're too old for a comeback. God says your finest hour is still ahead of you. You think you've missed your chance. God says He's been preparing something that only your pain could qualify you for. Listen to me carefully. In the next 72 hours, confirmation is going to meet you. You'll know it's God because it won't make logical sense to anyone else, but it will match the secret prayers you've whispered in the dark when no one was listening. The prayers you were almost too ashamed to pray because they felt too big, too impossible, too late. That phone call you've been waiting for, it's coming. That door you thought was permanently closed, it's about to swing wide open. That person who owes you an apology, they're about to surprise you. That breakthrough you've been begging for, it's already in motion. But here's what's going to happen in the next few minutes that will prove I'm not just blowing spiritual smoke. Something in your body is going to shift. Your breathing is going to change. That weight you've been carrying in your chest is going to lighten. You're going to feel something you haven't felt in months, maybe years. Hope. Real hope. Not the fake it till you make it kind. The kind that comes from heaven touching earth in your living room tonight. What if I told you that every tear you've cried over the past 5 years wasn't wasted? What if every sleepless night was God preparing you for something so big that He needed to empty you out completely so there'd be room for what He's about to pour in? What if the reason you felt so isolated, so forgotten, so invisible, wasn't because God abandoned you, but because He was hiding you, protecting you from settling for less than what He's been preparing? What if every closed door was Him steering you away from good toward great? What if the breakthrough you've been crying for isn't coming in 6 months? What if it's not coming next year when things make more sense? What if it's already on the move right now, traveling toward your address while you're sitting there doubting if God still remembers your name? The enemy told you that you're too old, too tired, too broken, too far behind. But tonight, God is whispering a different truth. You're not too late. You're right on time. Every gray hair on your head represents wisdom earned through fire. Every wrinkle tells a story of survival. Every ache in your bones is proof that you're still here, still standing, still breathing, still chosen. This is your moment. Not next month when you feel more ready. Not next year when your circumstances look better. Tonight, right now, while your heart is breaking open and your defenses are down, and your spirit is desperate enough to believe for the impossible. Type, "I'm ready for the miracle in my mess" in the comments right now. Not later. Not when you're done watching. Now, because your obedience is the key that unlocks what heaven has been holding for you. Watch how the winds start to shift the moment your fingers hit those keys. The mess you're living in isn't your final destination. It's your launching pad. And tonight, Chosen One, you're about to take off. Chosen One, as we come to the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to hold on to 3 unshakable truths that will carry you through whatever lies ahead. First, remember this. Tonight was not an accident. Your restless spirit, your sleepless hours, the divine pull that brought you to this message, all of it was orchestrated by a God who refuses to let you walk through this season alone. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not too late. Second, understand that the mess you're walking through right now is not your final chapter. It's not even the climax of your story. It's the sacred soil where your greatest miracle is taking root. God specializes in creating beauty from ashes, strength from struggle, and purpose from pain. Your breakthrough isn't coming despite your circumstances, it's coming because of them. Third, never forget that you carry divine DNA. You are not just surviving this life, you are chosen to transform it. The same power that raised Christ from the dead lives inside you right now, working behind the scenes, moving mountains you can't even see, preparing doors you don't even know exist. But here's what I want you to know with absolute certainty. You are not walking this path alone. Right now, thousands of other chosen ones are reading these words, feeling this same, stirring in their spirit, standing at their own crossroads of faith. You belong to a community of warriors who understand your fight because they're fighting the same battles. When you comment below, when you share your heart, you're not just typing words. You're joining a prayer circle that spans continents and time zones. So let me ask you this. What would your life look like 6 months from now if you truly believed that God's best days for you are still ahead? What would you dare to hope for? What would you dare to ask for? What would you dare to step into if you knew, really knew, that heaven was backing you up? Take a moment. Let that question settle in your heart. Now, before you go, I want to pray over you. Not a quick, polite prayer, but the kind of prayer that breaks through spiritual atmospheres and moves the heart of God. If you're comfortable, place your hand on your heart. Feel it beating. That's proof that your story isn't over. Heavenly Father, I come before you tonight carrying the hearts of every person who has heard this message. Lord, you see the tears they've cried in secret. You know the burdens they carry that feel too heavy for their shoulders. You understand the dreams they've buried because life convinced them it was too late. God, I ask you to breathe life back into their weary souls tonight. Where they feel forgotten, remind them they are chosen. Where they feel stuck, break open supernatural pathways. Where they feel afraid, fill them with holy boldness. Lord, let them feel your presence in a way that silences every doubt and awakens every dormant dream. Father, in the next 72 hours, send them confirmations that can only come from you, open doors that only your hand can unlock. Bring divine connections, unexpected provisions, and supernatural turnarounds. Let their testimony become a beacon of hope for others who are still waiting for their miracle. Protect them from the enemy's attacks on their faith. Guard their hearts against discouragement. Strengthen their bodies with divine health. Bless their families with peace and restoration. And Lord, let them never forget that they are not accidents. They are appointments, divinely scheduled for such a time as this. In Jesus' mighty name, we pray. Amen. If this message has touched your heart, I want to hear from you. Share your story in the comments below. Tell us what God is stirring in your spirit. Ask for prayer if you need it. This community will surround you with faith and intercession. And please, share this message with someone who needs to remember that they're not forgotten, they're not finished, and their greatest days are still ahead. Your testimony could be the very thing that gives someone else the courage to hold on for one more day, to believe for one more miracle, to take one more step toward their destiny. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey tonight. Your faithfulness to listen, to believe, and to hope doesn't go unnoticed by heaven. If this message has blessed you, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Together, we're building a community of chosen ones who refuse to give up, who choose to believe, and who know that our God is still in the miracle business. Until we meet again, walk in your authority, stand in your identity, and never forget, you are chosen, you are loved, and your breakthrough is already on the way. God bless you, chosen one. Sleep well tonight, knowing that heaven is working the night shift on your behalf.